The Interspecies Survival Academy sat nestled in the triple canopy forests of Verath Prime, a planet so aggressively alive that even the rocks seemed to pulse with biological menace. I am Krell, a Vorthian scout, and I have survived 17 campaigns across 12 systems. I have faced plasma storms, void predators, and once, a particularly aggressive species of carnivorous moss. Nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I was about to witness. The Academy accepted candidates from 47 different species. We were the best of the best, hand-picked warriors and scouts, meant to represent our civilizations in the most prestigious survival training program in the known galaxy. The course lasted 60 planetary rotations. The objective was simple: learn to become one with the wilderness, learn to blend. Our head instructor was Master Thane, a Keltorian whose species had evolved in the harshest mountain ranges of their homeworld. His forearms moved with practiced grace as he addressed our assembled group on that first morning. His voice carried across the clearing without need for amplification, a rumbling bass that seemed to resonate from the earth itself. "Survival is not about conquest," Thane announced, his crystalline eyes scanning each of us. "It is about harmony. You must learn to blend with nature, or become part of the ecosystem. Move through the forest like water through stone, leaving no trace, creating no disturbance. This is the way of the enlightened warrior." I stood in formation next to Prax, a Xinthian whose natural camouflage could shift through 16 different color patterns. On my other side was Voresh, a methane-breathing Gulvac in a specialized containment suit. Behind us, the assembled trainees represented the full spectrum of galactic evolution. Insectoids, reptilians, silicon-based life forms, energy beings maintaining corporeal shells. An impressive array of biological diversity. And then there were the humans. 3 of them had been selected for our cohort. They stood together near the back of the formation, and I confess, I barely noticed them at first. They were remarkably unremarkable. Average height by galactic standards, bipedal, bilateral symmetry, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Their skin tones varied in shades of brown and beige, lacking any natural armor, camouflage, or defensive adaptations. No claws, no venom sacs, no electromagnetic sensing organs. By all observable metrics, they were perhaps the least impressive candidates present. The female was called Kira. She had dark hair pulled back in a functional tail, and her eyes held a peculiar intensity that I would later learn to recognize as dangerous. The taller male went by Marcus, broad-shouldered with scars on his forearms that suggested prior combat experience. The third, a shorter male named Finn, seemed perpetually amused by something no one else could perceive, his mouth quirked in a half-smile that never quite faded. "Blend with nature," Marcus repeated quietly to his companions. His tone carried an edge I could not quite interpret. "This should be interesting." Kira nodded slowly. "Very interesting." Finn just grinned wider. Master Thane distributed our assignments. We would be divided into hunting groups of 5, expected to survive in designated forest sectors for 10-day cycles. We were provided basic tools: a blade, a water purifier, a shelter tarp, a fire starter, a communications beacon for true emergencies only. Everything else, we were told, we must obtain from the environment itself. "Remember," Thane emphasized, raising one of his 4 hands for attention, "you are not conquerors. You are guests in this ecosystem. The forest will provide if you learn to listen, move with respect, observe without interfering, blend with the natural order, and you will find peace." My group consisted of myself, Prax the camouflage specialist, an avian named Sika, whose species could echolocate, a heavily armored Brontok called Thudge, and Marcus, one of the humans. We moved into our designated sector as the morning sun filtered through the canopy above, creating scattered pools of amber light across the forest floor. The undergrowth was thick, humid with morning condensation. Every surface teemed with life. Insects the size of my claw buzzed past. Something large crashed through the brush 100 meters distant. The air smelled of decay and growth, that peculiar combination that defines living forests across the galaxy. We should establish a base camp first, Prax suggested, his skin already shifting to match the mottled greens and browns around us, somewhere elevated for defensive advantage and visibility. Agreed, Sika chirped, her head rotating nearly 180 degrees as she scanned the canopy. I detect several suitable trees with adequate branch structure approximately 200 meters northeast. Thudge grunted his approval. His species did not climb, but he seemed content to guard ground level. Marcus said nothing. He simply crouched near a fallen log, examining the ground with an intensity that seemed excessive for mere dirt. His fingers, I noticed, were tracing patterns in the soft earth. After a moment, he stood and pointed in a completely different direction from where Sika had suggested. Water that way, he said. Stream, maybe 50 meters. Game trail crosses it about 30 meters upstream. We set up there. Prax's skin flickered with confusion patterns. How could you possibly know that? Marcus smiled, and I saw something in that expression that made my secondary heart skip. It was the smile of a predator who has just detected prey. The ground slopes that direction, he said, as though explaining something to hatchlings. Vegetation is lusher where there's more moisture. These tracks. He indicated the patterns he had been studying are from something that moves on 6 legs, probably a herbivore based on the spacing and depth. It walked toward something, probably water. And this. He plucked a small purple flower from beside the log, only grows near moving water. The moss pattern on the rocks over there confirms drainage direction. Also, I can hear it. We all fell silent, extending our auditory receptors to maximum sensitivity. After nearly 15 seconds, I detected it. The faintest whisper of moving water, barely distinguishable from wind through leaves. Remarkable hearing for a species with such small auditory organs, Sika remarked. We had to get good at listening, Marcus replied, already moving in the direction he had indicated. Our ancestors were not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest. We survived by being smarter, more patient, and better at noticing things. We became persistence hunters. We became trappers. We learned to read the land like others read data streams. We followed him because, frankly, we had no better plan. And true to his prediction, we found the stream exactly where he said it would be, and the game trail was visible even to my less than expert eyes once we knew to look for it. This is an intersection, Marcus explained, kneeling beside the water. Animals need water. They create paths to water. Paths become predictable. Predictable becomes opportunity. If this was a survival situation, this is where I would set snares. But Master Thane instructed us to blend. Prax objected. To observe without interfering. Setting snares is hardly harmonious. Marcus looked up at the Zynthian, and again I saw that predatory gleam. You blend by understanding the patterns. You survive by using them. Harmony does not mean passivity. It means becoming part of the cycle. Predator and prey, that's the oldest harmony there is. We established camp near the stream as Marcus suggested. For the next 3 days, we followed the curriculum as outlined by Master Thane. We practiced moving silently through the undergrowth. We learned to identify edible plants from the Academy's provided database. We meditated beside the water, opening our senses to the rhythms of the forest. Prax became nearly invisible against various backgrounds. Sika mapped the entire sector using echolocation. Thudge found mineral deposits we could use for tool making. I contributed my tracking skills, reading signs and traces of the various creatures that inhabited our sector. And Marcus watched everything with those calculating human eyes, saying little, but I could practically hear his mind working, processing, strategizing. On the 4th day, everything changed. We woke to find Finn, the other male human, standing in our camp. He had somehow crossed from his assigned sector, moving through over 2 kilometers of dense forest without triggering any of our perimeter alerts. He simply appeared, as though materializing from the morning mist. "Morning," he said cheerfully, helping himself to some of the tubers we had roasted the night before. Kira wanted me to tell you something interesting. The humans back in our sector, we have been experimenting with Master Thane's philosophy, blending with nature, becoming one with the ecosystem. Marcus tilted his head. Show me. Finn's grin widened. Already did. You have got 6 snares currently deployed around your camp perimeter. You set them yesterday evening, but you made them too visible. Classic wire tension design, effective but unsubtle. The trick is integration. The snare should not look like a snare. It should look like nature, like it belongs. He led us 30 meters from camp to one of Marcus's snare locations. The snare was gone. In its place, a sophisticated trap had been constructed from entirely natural materials. Bent saplings, carefully woven grass cord, trigger mechanisms disguised as normal ground vegetation. It was beautiful in its deceptive simplicity. This will catch whatever triggers it, Finn explained, and unlike wire, it looks like random forest debris until the moment it activates. That's blending. That's harmony. You become invisible by becoming indistinguishable from the environment itself. This is not what Master Thane meant, Sika protested. This is deception, trickery. This is survival, Finn countered. Every species in this forest uses deception. Camouflage is deception. Warning coloration is deception. Mimicry is deception. We are just better at it because we spent 100,000 years doing it to survive. We are persistence hunters, ambush predators, and trap makers. Our ancestors hunted megafauna by walking them to death over days. We hunted in packs using coordination and communication. We studied animal behavior not from curiosity but from necessity. And now you are asking us to blend with nature? He laughed, and the sound was not unkind, but there was an edge to it that made my scales itch. We already do, he said. We are the apex predator of our homeworld, not because of strength, not because of speed, but because we think we adapt and we never stop hunting. Watch. Watch. Over the next 10 days, the forest around us transformed in ways I am still not sure I can properly articulate. The humans began to share techniques with those willing to learn. Marcus taught tracking skills that went far beyond what the academy curriculum covered. He could read a broken twig and tell you not just what passed by, but when, how fast it was moving, and whether it was injured or healthy. Kira appeared in our sector on day 7, moving through the forest like a ghost. She was a specialist in persistence hunting, she explained. Her contribution was teaching us about exhaustion hunting, about understanding metabolic rates and recovery times, about reading the signs of fatigue in prey species. Everything tires eventually, she said, demonstrating tracking techniques on a 6-legged herbivore we had been observing. You do not need to be faster. You just need to be relentless. You push them, keep them moving, deny them rest. Eventually, they collapse. That's how humans hunted on old Earth. We would track an antelope or a deer, and we would just keep coming, hour after hour, day after day. They would run, we would walk. They would rest, we would keep walking. Eventually, they would lie down and not get up. That is the human advantage. We do not quit. That sounds horrific, Prax said quietly. That sounds like survival, Kira replied. Nature is not kind. Nature is not cruel. Nature just is. And in nature, the one who adapts best survives longest. The humans introduced concepts that seemed alien to everything Master Thane had taught. They showed us how to create dead falls that looked like natural log falls, how to dig pit traps concealed by woven grass mats and leaf litter, how to create snares that tightened based on prey movement patterns, how to read wind direction and use scent masking, how to move through underbrush without disturbing the upper branches that might alert arboreal creatures. But the most disturbing thing, the thing that kept my secondary heart racing whenever I observed them, was how completely they disappeared when they wanted to. On day 12, Master Thane arrived for his scheduled inspection of our sector. We assembled to demonstrate our progress. Thane moved through the camp with his characteristic grace, examining our shelters, our food stores, our water purification setup. He nodded approval at several of our innovations. "You are learning," he said. "I sense harmony here. You move with the forest, not against it. This is good. But tell me, where is your fifth member? The human Marcus?" We all looked around. None of us had an answer. Marcus had been there moments before Thane arrived. We had seen him. He had been checking one of his snare locations near the stream. "Marcus," I called out. "Master Thane is here for inspection." Silence answered. The forest continued its normal sounds. Insects buzzed. Wind rustled leaves. The water burbled over stones, but no Marcus. Thane's expression hardened. "This is unacceptable. We do not hide from evaluations. Find him." We spread out, searching the immediate area. Prax used his camouflage-adapted vision to check for heat signatures. Sika sent out echolocation pulses. I read the ground for tracks. Thudge simply bellowed Marcus's name repeatedly with his powerful lungs. Nothing. Thane grew agitated, his forearms gesturing in the frustration patterns of his species. This is exactly what I warned against. The human individualism, the tendency toward separation from the group. He has likely become lost, panicked, and now endangers himself through. "I'm right here," Marcus said. We all spun around. He was standing directly behind Thane, perhaps 3 meters away, leaning casually against a tree trunk. I would swear on my ancestors' scales that he had not been there a moment before. Prax's skin flashed through confusion patterns so rapidly it nearly made me dizzy. Sika's head swiveled completely around twice, as though her sensory organs had malfunctioned. "How long have you been standing there?" Thane demanded. "Whole time," Marcus replied. "You walked right past me twice." Krell looked directly at me once. "No offense, but your species are kind of loud when you move. Easy to avoid if you know what to listen for." I felt my scales flush with embarrassment because he was absolutely right. I had looked in that direction. I had seen the tree, the vines, the dappled shadows, the underbrush. I had not seen Marcus because Marcus had become part of that landscape. His clothing was muddied and leaf-stained. He had wedged himself into an angle where shadow and light played tricks with depth perception. He had remained perfectly still, controlling even his breathing to match the ambient rhythms of the forest. He had, in short, blended. "This is not what I meant," Thane said slowly. "This is not harmony. This is." "This is exactly what you said," Marcus interrupted, and I detected something new in his voice. A challenge. "Do." "You said blend with nature. Become one with the ecosystem. Move without leaving trace. Create no disturbance." That's what I did. That's what humans do. We blend by becoming invisible. We hunt by becoming the environment. Our ancestors survived the ice ages not by running, not by fighting, but by becoming ghosts. We learn to think like prey to anticipate them, and we learn to move like predators to catch them. You want us to blend? Fine. But do not be surprised when we do it better than you expected. Thane stared at the human for a long moment. Something passed between them, some communication I did not fully understand. Finally, the Keltorian nodded slowly. "Perhaps," he said, "I have been teaching the wrong lessons. Or perhaps, the right lessons to the wrong species. Continue your work." He left our sector soon after, and I noticed his movements seemed less graceful than before, more cautious, even as though he had suddenly become aware that the forest held eyes he could not see. Over the next 20 days, word spread through the academy about the humans. They were not the largest candidates, not the strongest, not the fastest. But they were winning. Every evaluation, every tracking exercise, every survival scenario, the humans excelled in ways that made the rest of us uncomfortable. They caught more game. They built better shelters. They moved more quietly. They read terrain better. They adapted faster. And most disturbingly, they seemed to enjoy it in ways that suggested this was not new to them, but rather a return to something old, something primal, Something written into their genetic code across millennia of evolutionary pressure. The instructors began calling them the Ghost Squad. The three humans would appear and disappear across the sectors seemingly at will, moving through the forest like mist through trees. They would leave gifts in other campsites, small tokens that proved they had been there. A perfectly gutted fish beside Prax's sleeping area. A bundle of medicinal herbs outside Sika's shelter. A small pyramid of stones that had not been there the night before, balanced impossibly in the center of Thudge's guard post. It was, I realized, a demonstration. They were not trying to survive. They were already past that. They were playing. They were showing us what apex predators looked like when they had nothing left to prove. On day 35, Master Thane called an emergency assembly. All cohorts were summoned to the central training ground. This was unprecedented. The survival training was meant to be continuous, uninterrupted by non-emergency situations. We gathered in the clearing as the dual suns set behind the tree line, casting long shadows across the assembled candidates. Master Thane stood before us, all four arms crossed in the formal posture of serious announcement. "We have a situation," he began. 3 days ago, a cargo transport crashed approximately 15 kilometers northwest of the Academy. The crew survived, but their emergency beacon was damaged in the impact. They are stranded in unexplored territory. Our long-range sensors have been unable to penetrate the mineral interference in that region. Command has requested volunteers for a rescue operation. This will be dangerous. The terrain is hostile. The wildlife is unknown. You will be operating beyond mapped territory with limited support. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. I need 5 volunteers. Hands, claws, tentacles, and various other appendages shot up around the clearing. Nearly everyone wanted to prove themselves in a real-world scenario. This was what we had trained for. Thane's eyes scanned the crowd, then settled on a specific group. His voice carried clearly in the evening air. I am taking the humans, Kira, Marcus, Finn. You 3 will lead this operation. Select 2 others to accompany you. The clearing erupted in protests. Species from a dozen worlds vocalized their objections in various frequencies and volumes. This was unfair. The humans were too inexperienced. They had only been in training 5 weeks. This required veterans. This required species with natural adaptations for tracking and survival. Thane raised all 4 arms for silence. When he spoke again, his voice carried an edge I had never heard before. In 5 weeks, these 3 have demonstrated skills that most of you have not mastered in 5 years. They have become what I have spent my entire career trying to teach. They do not fight nature. They do not conquer it. They become it. They are hunters, and hunting is what this situation requires. My decision is final. Marcus stepped forward. His face was unreadable in the fading light. We will need Krell and Sika. Krell's tracking experience and Sika's echolocation will compensate for our weaker night vision. With your permission, Master Thane. Thane nodded. Granted. You 5 will depart at first light. Prepare yourselves. This will not be a training exercise. This is real. That night I lay in my shelter and stared at the canopy above, listening to the night sounds of the forest. I thought about Marcus standing invisible against a tree. I thought about Finn's snares that looked like nature itself. I thought about Kira's patient explanation of persistence hunting, of relentless pursuit, of prey that ran until its heart burst from exhaustion. I thought about what it meant to be the apex predator of an entire world, to spend 100,000 years learning to disappear, to hunt, to trap, to outlast everything else that walked, crawled, flew, or swam, to become so proficient at survival that it was no longer survival but art. And I realized, as sleep finally claimed me, that I was about to venture into hostile territory led by 3 members of a species that had turned hunting into instinct and camouflage into breathing. Three humans who had listened to an instructor say blend with nature and heard something completely different from what was intended. They had heard permission. Tomorrow we would venture into unknown wilderness. And I was simultaneously grateful that the humans were on my side and terrified of what they might become when the training restrictions were lifted and the survival became real. The forest night sang its ancient songs. Somewhere in the darkness I heard movement. Probably just an animal. Probably. Dawn arrived with the subtlety of a plasma grenade. One moment the forest was shrouded in darkness, the next, twin suns were burning through the canopy and transforming every droplet of morning dew into tiny prisms of light. I emerged from my shelter to find the three humans already awake, already prepared, already moving with that unsettling efficiency that had become their trademark. Kira was checking equipment with methodical precision. Marcus was studying a topographical map projected from his wrist display, his eyes tracing elevation lines and watershed patterns. And was doing something that looked like stretching, but the movements were too deliberate, too controlled. It reminded me of the pre-hunt rituals I had observed in ambush predators on other worlds. Sika landed beside me with a flutter of wings, her avian features arranged in what I had learned to recognize as concern. "I have been thinking," she said quietly, her voice pitched for my hearing only. "What we are about to do, this is different from training. This is tracking through hostile territory to locate sentients who may be injured, possibly pursued by local predators, definitely running low on resources." The humans seemed confident. But confidence without experience is just arrogance. How do we know they can actually deliver when the stakes are real? It was a fair question. I did not have a good answer. Before I could formulate a response, Marcus looked up from his map as though he had heard our conversation from 15 meters away. Given what I had learned about human hearing, he probably had. "Sika raises a valid concern," he called out, not bothering with pretense. "You should be worried. You should be questioning whether three humans with 5 weeks of academy training can lead a rescue operation. That would be the smart, logical approach. So let me tell you what we bring to this situation. Finn has survival experience across 6 different biomes on Earth. Kira spent 3 years doing wilderness rescue on a colony world where the local fauna considered humans a menu item. And me? I tracked insurgents through mountain ranges where the temperature dropped to -40 at night and the local predators hunted in packs of 20. We are not playing anymore. This is what we do. This is what humans have always done. We find things that do not want to be found, and we bring them home. Questions?" Sika's head swiveled in that disconcerting full rotation. "No questions. Just observation. You speak with certainty, but certainty can be dangerous." "So can hesitation," Kira replied, slinging her pack across her shoulders. "We leave in 5 minutes." Master Thane provided coordinates for the last known position of the crash site. 15 kilometers northwest, heavy canopy coverage, elevated terrain with multiple ravines and box canyons. The transport crew consists of 4 individuals, 2 Keltorians, 1 Xinthian, 1 silicon-based Grexian. They have been missing for 73 hours. Their supplies were limited. Time is not our friend here. Master Thane appeared at the edge of our camp, moving with that 4-armed grace that somehow seemed less impressive after watching humans disappear into shadows. His face was unreadable, but I detected tension in the set of his shoulders. "The rescue team," he announced formally. "You carry the reputation of this academy. You carry the hopes of 4 sentients who depend on your success. Move with wisdom. Move with caution. Remember your training. And remember, out there, beyond our mapped territories, you are not guests of the forest. You are simply another species trying to survive. The communication relay will allow periodic check-ins. Use it wisely. The Academy will monitor your progress, but understand we cannot extract you if you encounter serious trouble. You will be on your own." "We are always on our own," Finn said cheerfully. "Oh, that is kind of our whole thing. But thanks for the pep talk, Master Thane. Very motivational. Really feeling the support here." If Thane detected the sarcasm, he chose to ignore it. He simply nodded once, sharply, and stepped back. "Go," Bring them home. We moved into the forest in a formation that had not been discussed but somehow materialized through unspoken agreement. Marcus took point, his eyes scanning terrain and vegetation with that predatory focus. Kira ranged to the left flank, moving through undergrowth with barely a whisper of displaced leaves. Finn covered right, his movements looser, more relaxed, but I noticed his eyes never stopped moving, cataloging everything, missing nothing. Sika took aerial reconnaissance, flying in wide patterns above the canopy. And I followed Marcus directly, learning with every step how a human tracker read the forest. The first 3 kilometers passed in relative silence. The terrain was familiar, Academy-mapped territory with known hazards and documented wildlife. Marcus set a brutal pace, not quite running but moving faster than a comfortable walk, his breathing steady and controlled. I matched his speed but felt my secondary heart already working harder than I would have preferred. "You are moving fast," I observed, keeping my voice low. "Should we not conserve energy for the return journey?" "Distance per time equals speed," Marcus replied without slowing. "Speed multiplied by urgency equals lives saved. We are burning daylight, and every hour we delay is an hour those crew members go without water, without shelter, without medical attention. Fast now means fast back. Trust the process." Kira appeared from the left flank like a materialization, barely disturbing the ferns as she emerged. Stream ahead, 20 meters. Game trail crosses it. Multiple tracks, fresh within the last 6 hours. Something big, definitely predatory, moving south to north. Probably hunting. Avoid it, Marcus decided immediately. We are not here to engage local fauna. We ghost past, maintain distance, stay quiet. "Finn, you copy?" Finn's voice came from somewhere to our right, though I could not visually locate him. "Copy." Also found something interesting. Scorch marks on trees about 30 meters off our current heading. A pattern suggests energy discharge, probably from ship damage during descent. We are on the right track. "Good eyes," Marcus acknowledged. "Sika, what are you seeing from above?" The avian's voice crackled through our comm units. "Canopy coverage is increasing as we proceed northwest. I am detecting a clearing approximately 2 kilometers ahead, roughly matching the coordinates for crash site. However, I am also detecting movement in that direction. Large thermal signatures, count of 8, no, make that 10 separate entities. They appear to be converging on the clearing from multiple directions." Marcus stopped so abruptly I nearly collided with him. His hand came up in a fist, the universal signal for halt. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. It was quieter, harder, focused in a way that made my scales prickle with instinctive alarm. 10 bogies, moving toward crash site. That is not random. That is coordinated. That is pack behavior. Sika described the movement patterns. Spreading in an arc formation, Sika reported. Maintaining roughly equal spacing. Converging toward the clearing from east and south. If the crash survivors are in that clearing, they are about to be surrounded. "Time to intercept?" Kira asked, already checking her blade. Marcus consulted his wrist display, then looked at the terrain ahead with those calculating human eyes. 17 minutes at combat pace. We will not make it before the pack reaches the clearing. We need a different approach. We need to think like predators. Sika, can you create a distraction? Something that draws attention, makes noise, confuses the pack? I can vocalize distress calls from multiple local species, Sika offered. But that will draw the predators toward my position. That seems counterproductive to my continued survival. "Not if you are mobile and they are stationary," Finn interjected. "You draw them away from the clearing, give us time to reach the survivors and fortify a position. Classic bait and switch. Humans invented it." Well, probably other species invented it too, but humans perfected it. Also, we kind of enjoy it, which is probably psychologically concerning, but useful in this context. No, I heard myself say. The word emerged before I fully processed the thought. We do not sacrifice team members as bait. There must be another way. Marcus turned to look at me, And his expression was not unkind, but there was something ancient in his eyes, something that predated civilization and technology and interstellar academies. It was the look of a hunter weighing options, calculating odds, making hard choices. "Krell, I appreciate the sentiment," he said. "But in survival situations, sometimes someone has to take risks so others can succeed. That is how pack hunting works. That is how humans survived when saber-toothed cats and cave bears wanted to eat us. We used bait, distractions, coordinated attacks, whatever it took. Sika is not being sacrificed. She is being deployed strategically. Big difference." "He is correct," Sika said, and I detected something like excitement in her voice. "My species are aerial specialists. I can vocalize and evade simultaneously. And honestly, I am curious to test my abilities against local predators. This is, after all, what we trained for. Real-world application of theoretical skills. Let me do this." Before I could formulate another objection, she launched herself skyward, wings beating hard, rising through gaps in the canopy until she was lost to my vision. Moments later, the forest erupted with sound. Sika's voice, amplified and modulated through her species' natural vocal range, produced screams, roars, chirps, and howls that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. It was the audio equivalent of chaos, a cacophony that suggested wounded prey, territorial disputes, and dinner bells all ringing at once. "Move," Marcus commanded, and we moved. The next 17 minutes were among the most physically demanding of my life. Marcus set a pace that bordered on reckless, leaping over logs, sliding down embankments, crashing through undergrowth with calculated abandon. The rules about silent movement were temporarily suspended. Speed mattered more than stealth. We needed to reach the clearing before the pack realized they were being manipulated. I followed, burning through energy reserves, my legs pumping, my lungs heaving, my secondary heart hammering against my ribs. Kira kept pace to my left, her face set in concentration, sweat beading on her forehead, but her breathing still controlled. Ranged somewhere behind us, covering our rear, ensuring nothing surprised us from unexpected angles. Through the comm, I heard Sika's periodic updates between bouts of vocal manipulation. "Pack is responding, pursuing my vocalizations. They are definitely interested. Moving away from clearing, I am leading them northeast. They are fast, very fast. Okay, this is perhaps more exciting than I anticipated. They have some kind of climbing ability. Note to self. Stay higher than I thought necessary. Still leading them away. You should have clear approach to clearing now." "Copy that, Sika," Marcus responded. "Do not engage. Do not let them corner you. Keep mobile, keep vocal. Give us 10 minutes, then break off and rendezvous us at the clearing. Can you do that?" "Affirmative." Sika's voice carried strain now. "Although I am strongly reconsidering my earlier enthusiasm. These predators are remarkably persistent. I see why you humans invented persistence hunting. It is deeply unpleasant from the prey perspective. 10 minutes. I can do 10 minutes. We burst into the clearing like an explosion of motion and sound. The crash site was immediately visible, a ugly scar across the landscape where the transport had torn through the canopy and plowed into the ground. The hull was breached in multiple places, emergency foam hardened around the impact points, scorch marks painting abstract patterns across the metal. And huddled in the partial shelter of the wrecked cargo bay were 4 figures in various states of distress. 2 Keltorians, their normally proud postures bent with exhaustion and dehydration. 1 Xinthian, whose natural camouflage was flickering erratically, a sign of severe stress or injury. And 1 Grexian whose silicon-based body showed cracks along its primary structure, damage that would prove fatal without proper mineral infusion treatment. They looked up at our approach with expressions that transitioned rapidly from fear to recognition to desperate hope. "Rescue team," Marcus announced, his voice carrying authority despite his heaving chest. "We are getting you out of here, but we need to move fast. How many of you can walk unassisted?" One of the Keltorians, a female whose name tag identified her as Instructor Vela, pushed herself upright with visible effort. "I can walk." Thorn can walk, but he is injured, broken ribs from impact. Zax cannot maintain stability, his camouflage systems are damaged. Ron needs mineral support, or he will fracture completely within hours. Okay, Marcus processed this rapidly. Krell, you and I carry Gron. Finn, you support Zax. Kira, you lead point, get us back to Academy territory by the fastest safe route. Vila, you and Thorn stay center formation, conserve energy. We move now, we move fast, and we do not stop for anything short of imminent death. Clear? Clear, everyone responded. Even the injured survivors seemed to draw strength from the certainty in Marcus's voice. Ron was heavy, his silicon-based body far denser than organic matter. Marcus and I positioned ourselves on either side, supporting his weight across our shoulders. The strain was immediate and brutal. My legs protested. My back complained. My secondary heart went into overdrive. Marcus's face remained impassive, showing no sign of the physical stress I knew he must be experiencing. Sika, status, Kira called into the comm as we began moving. Breaking off now, Sika's voice came back, strained and breathless. Pack attempted to corner me in a box canyon. Very clever of them, actually. I am impressed by their tactical awareness. But I went vertical, and they apparently have limits to their climbing ability. Proceeding to rendezvous point, estimated arrival 3 minutes. Copy. We are moving with wounded, pace will be slower than approach. Stay sharp, everyone. We moved back into the forest, and everything was different now. We were not just tracking, we were escorting. We were not just surviving, we were protecting. The dynamics changed. The risks multiplied, and the humans adapted instantly. Kira took point but moved differently now, slower but more deliberate, choosing paths that accommodated injured and burdened team members. She would pause at obstacles, assess, then signal the safest route. Her movements were economical, precise, wasting no energy on unnecessary actions. Finn supported Zax with surprising gentleness, his usual sardonic demeanor replaced by focused attention. He spoke quietly to the injured Zynthian, offering encouragement, pointing out handholds, maintaining a steady stream of communication that kept Zax focused and moving despite his obvious distress. Marcus and I struggled with Gron's weight, but Marcus set a rhythm that made the burden manageable. Step, breathe, step, breathe. He maintained constant awareness of our surroundings even while bearing half the weight of a silicon-based life form. Talk to me, Krell, Marcus said quietly as we navigated a particularly steep descent. You have been in combat. You have done extractions before. What am I missing? What am I not seeing? It took me a moment to understand he was genuinely asking, genuinely seeking my input, despite being the designated leader. This was different from what I expected. Humans were supposed to be arrogant, individualistic, unwilling to admit limitations. But here was Marcus, in the middle of a crisis operation, asking for perspective. The pack, I said, breathing hard between words. They were converging with coordination. That suggests intelligence. Intelligence suggests learning. They will figure out the distraction eventually. They will return to the clearing. They will find our trail. We need to assume pursuit. Good analysis, Marcus nodded. Kira, you copy that? Copied, Kira's voice came back. Adjusting route. Going to take us through the stream we passed earlier, break our scent trail, make tracking harder, add approximately 8 minutes to travel time, but significantly reduces pursuit effectiveness. Your call. Do it, Marcus decided. 8 minutes now might save us from a running fight later. Time is negotiable. Safety is not. We altered course. Gron's weight felt like it was increasing with every step, though I knew this was just fatigue making itself known. My legs burned. My shoulders ached. My secondary heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest cavity. But I looked at Marcus, saw his jaw set, his eyes focused, his entire being committed to the task, and I found reserves I did not know I possessed. Sika rejoined us as we reached the stream, landing on a boulder with obvious relief. Her wings were trembling slightly from exhaustion. That was educational, she announced. I have learned that local predators are fast, intelligent, coordinated, and disturbingly persistent. I have also learned that I can vocalize continuously for 12 minutes while performing evasive flight maneuvers, which is approximately 4 minutes longer than I thought possible. Fatigue is significant. Morale is surprisingly high. I may have enjoyed that more than is psychologically healthy. Welcome to the adrenaline addiction, Finn laughed. Humans have been chasing that high for millennia. It is probably why we do stupid, dangerous things for fun. Skydiving, cave exploring, persistence hunting megafauna across endless plains. We are chemically wired to enjoy the hunt. Evolution is weird like that. We moved into the stream, the cold water shocking against my overheated legs. Marcus guided us upstream, placing our feet on rocks to minimize disturbance, moving with the water flow to confuse our direction. After nearly 300 meters, he directed us out on the opposite bank, then had us walk backward on our own tracks for 20 meters before cutting sideways into thick undergrowth. Classic misdirection, he explained. Trackers will find where we entered the stream, but the exit point will be less obvious. Walking backward confuses direction indicators. Cutting sideways from our backward tracks creates a false trail terminus. By the time they puzzle it out, if they puzzle it out, we will have significant lead distance. You have done this before, Instructor Vela observed. This is not academy training. This is field experience. Humans have been evading pursuit for a very long time, Marcus replied. Before we had walls and weapons, we had brains and deception. Our ancestors survived by being smarter than the things trying to eat them. But genetic memory runs deep. When you spend 100,000 years as both predator and prey, you learn tricks. Lots of tricks. The journey back took 4 hours. 4 hours of continuous movement, constant vigilance, relentless forward progress. Ron's weight never decreased, but somehow we adapted to it. The rhythm Marcus established became automatic. Step, breathe, step, breathe. The forest passed in a blur of green and brown, shadows and light, endless repetition of motion and effort. Twice, Sika reported movement behind us, distant but definitely tracking our path. The pack had returned to the clearing, found our trail, and resumed pursuit. But they were slower now, more cautious, apparently having learned that easy prey was a lie. They are smart, Sika reported. They are not rushing. They are pacing themselves. This is long-distance pursuit behavior. They think they can outlast us. They are treating this like a persistence hunt. Then we give them what humans give persistence hunters, Kira said grimly. Disappointment. We are the original persistence hunters. We invented this game. We do not get outlasted. We outlast. Marcus, distance to Academy perimeter. 1.3 kilometers. Marcus checked his display. 30 more minutes at current pace. We are going to make it. And we did. As the suns began their descent toward the horizon, painting the canopy in shades of orange and gold, we emerged from the deep forest into the Academy training grounds. Master Thane was waiting with a full medical team. They took the injured survivors immediately, rushing them toward the infirmary with practiced efficiency. Thane approached our group, his 4 arms crossed in what I had learned to recognize as his thinking posture. His eyes scanned each of us, assessing condition, looking for injuries. When he spoke, his voice carried genuine respect. A full report. Marcus delivered it in crisp, economical sentences. The approach, the discovery of the pack, Sika's distraction, the extraction, the evasion tactics, the pursuit, the return. No embellishment, no dramatic exaggeration. Just facts delivered with military precision. Thane listened without interruption. When Marcus finished, the Keltorian instructor nodded slowly. You deviated from standard rescue protocols, Thane observed. You used team members as bait. You prioritized speed over caution. You employed deception tactics not covered in Academy curriculum. You essentially rewrote the operational manual in real time. And yet, you brought them home. All of them, without casualties, without significant injuries. against a coordinated pack of predators in hostile territory. How do you explain this success? Marcus looked at Kira and Finn. Something passed between them, some communication I did not fully understand. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was different, less formal, more honest. We stopped following the manual, he said simply. The manual was written by species that evolved in different circumstances with different pressures, different survival requirements. That manual teaches harmony and blending and becoming one with nature through patience and observation. Those are good principles. But they are not human principles. Humans survived by being aggressive when necessary, by taking calculated risks, by using every advantage including deception and misdirection. We did not blend with nature. We bent nature to our needs. That is the human way. That is how we became the apex predator of our homeworld. That is what you saw out there. Not academy training, human instinct. 100,000 years of evolutionary refinement turned into operational doctrine on the fly. Thane was silent for a long moment. Around us, other instructors had gathered, listening to the exchange. Students from multiple species watched from various distances. The clearing had become an impromptu amphitheater, and Marcus's words hung in the air like a challenge. Finally, Thane spoke. "You are saying my teachings are wrong?" "No," Kira stepped forward. "We are saying your teachings are incomplete. You teach harmony, and that is valuable. But there is another kind of harmony, the harmony of predator and prey, the harmony of the hunt, the harmony of survival through adaptation and aggression. Humans know this harmony. We lived it for millennia before we built cities and ships and academies. You asked us to blend with nature. We did. But we blended as humans, not as Keltorians or Zynthians or any other species. We blended as hunters, because that is what we are. That is what we have always been. And you believe this makes you superior?" Thane's voice carried an edge now. "No," Finn said, and his usual humor was gone, replaced by something serious, something almost sad. "It makes us different. Not better, not worse, just different. Every species evolved to meet specific challenges. Your people evolved in mountains, learning patience and strength. Others evolved in oceans, learning cooperation and communication. Humans evolved on plains and forests where everything wanted to eat us, and we wanted to eat everything. So we learned to hunt, to track, to disappear, to set traps, to coordinate, to persist. We became the thing that kept coming, the thing that never quit. The thing that learned your patterns and used them against you. Oh, that is not superiority. That is just survival selection applied over geological timescales. We are really good at one thing, hunting. And sometimes, like today, that is exactly the skill that is needed." Master Thane stood there, forearms still crossed, his face unreadable. The gathered crowd waited. I realized I was holding my breath. Then Thane did something I had never seen him do before. He bowed. A deep, formal bow of respect. "You have taught me something today," he said. "All of you. There are many paths to harmony, many ways to blend, many forms of survival. I have spent my life teaching one path, believing it was the path. But perhaps it is simply my path, the Keltorian path. And perhaps humans have their own path, a path of motion instead of stillness, of action instead of patience, of the hunt instead of the hide. This is valuable knowledge. This is wisdom earned through blood and bone, and evolutionary fire. I thank you for sharing it." He straightened, and when he looked at the three humans again, something had changed in his expression. "Tomorrow we begin a new training module, one that incorporates human methodologies, tracking, trapping, pursuit tactics, evasion techniques, misdirection strategies. The Academy will learn from what you have demonstrated, but tonight you rest. You have earned it. Dismissed." The crowd dispersed slowly, conversations erupting in multiple languages and frequencies. Students approached the humans with new respect, asking questions, seeking insights. The Ghost Squad had become something more than a nickname. It had become recognition. I found myself standing alone with Marcus as the evening deepened into night. The twin suns had set, replaced by 3 small moons that painted the forest in silver light. "I misjudged your species," I said quietly. "When training began, I saw humans as unremarkable, average in every measurable way. I could not understand why Thane selected you for the rescue operation. Now I understand. You are not average. You are specialized. Hyper-specialized for exactly one thing. And when that one thing is needed, nothing else comes close." Marcus smiled, and it was not the predatory smile I had seen before. It was gentler, more human, more real. "Every species has their thing," he said. "Yours is adaptability across environments. Sika's people have aerial mastery. Thane's people have strength and endurance. Humans, we hunt, we track, we persist. We became apex predators not through dominance but through relentlessness. We are not the strongest or fastest, but we are the ones who never stop coming. And yeah, that is kind of terrifying from the prey perspective. But it is also what kept our ancestors alive when everything had bigger teeth and sharper claws. Evolution does not care about fair. It cares about survival. We survived, and along the way we became really good at making sure other things did not." He clapped a hand on my shoulder, a human gesture of camaraderie I had learned to appreciate. "You did good out there, Krell. Carried your share of the weight. You kept moving when your body wanted to quit. Adapted to changing circumstances. Those are all hunter traits, by the way. You might have some of that persistence predator mindset yourself. You ever think about that?" I had not. But as I stood there in the moonlight, feeling the ache in my muscles, remembering the rhythm of step and breathe, remembering the fierce determination to reach safety despite exhaustion and fear and crushing weight, I realized Marcus might be right. Perhaps every species carried some echo of the hunt in their genetic code. Perhaps survival across the ages required everyone to be a little bit predator, a little bit prey, a little bit ghost. The humans had just embraced it more fully than most. And as I watched Marcus walk away to rejoin his companions, I felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. It was respect, certainly, but also gratitude. Gratitude that when the Academy faced a crisis, when sentience needed rescue, when the situation required someone who could track through hostile territory and evade coordinated predators and carry impossible burdens without complaint, we had humans. We had the species that looked at nature's most brutal survival requirements and said, "Challenge accepted." We had the apex predators who had learned to disappear, to hunt, to persist, and most importantly, to bring their pack home safe. The forest sang its night songs. Somewhere in the darkness, something howled. And for the first time since arriving at the Interspecies Survival Academy, I did not feel afraid. Because I had seen what humans became when you told them to blend with nature. They became ghosts. They became hunters. They became exactly what survival required. And that, I realized, was the most human thing of all.